Okay. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
okay. It's online now. Okay. Hey, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Hello. So, my name is Ryan from Gentleman Pursuits, and this is you're currently listening to this new series that I kind of foreshadowed in some, in my videos or other podcast episodes, and it's finally here. And one more exciting news to share is that there's a new member joining the Gentleman Pursuits team to, create this new podcast series with us. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience?
Oh yeah. Sure. So my name's Josh, and I know Ryan from like high school, and recently hit him up on like
We okay, but we didn't even
we
talk
did
much in
for
high
real.
school anywhere.
But
We
but
didn't
but I
talk
know
much in
you
high
though,
school.
right? But I know you though.
Kind of.
that's like a what else am I gonna say? Like, oh, this a random dude online. He kind of gave me a candy. I went into his van. Now I'm here. Hashtag
I
help me,
mean, that,
please.
that that totally sounds like what I'll do, but
Yeah. So anyways, basically, this is a new series me and Ryan are gonna work on. Um, so we figured that Gentleman's Pursuit as a sort of like a platform, we could add in a bit more diversity. Would you say
yeah.
like diversity? Yeah.
So like, gentleman pursuits. Before I talked about what it takes to be a gentleman, right? But I never
Yeah.
actually had the chance to, dive into what exactly am I talking about, what exactly is character or being a gentleman. So I this series, Josh and I, we hope that through,
It's more like a
different,
yeah.
yeah, like through different conversations and different discussions, we may
Yeah,
spark
definitely.
some ideas in you and make you rethink life. That would be our ultimate goal.
Yeah. I mean,
So
at the
yeah,
end of the day, I think I remember listening to one of your like initial episodes on Spotify because I was like going through like, hey, let me see like what this dude's
yeah,
talking about,
yeah.
and you
Okay.
said
You know what?
something.
Before
Yeah,
you say anything, tread
yeah,
lightly on your comment. Okay, tread lightly.
dude, come on. Like yeah. So basically, like you said something about like it's more about venturing, discovery and self-discovery and like attunement, right? So I figured
Kind
it's
of.
like, yeah, why not like we should provide more these kind of content or just maybe share our own experience with other people. And I feel like
Yeah, that's for
with
sure.
any
That's for sure.
platform it's really meaningful. So like so
You know
obviously
what?
this is
Okay.
about yeah, yeah,
Let me ask you this question. Okay.
yeah, sure.
So it's like your test for the first episode.
Oh
What
shit.
do you think? What do you what do you think is a gentleman? Like what it takes to be a gentleman in your opinion? Because obviously,
Ooh.
I said before,
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of people a lot of people when they think of the word gentleman, they would, this image of a dude in
Uh-huh.
suits, or with a top hat would appear in their mind, in their, imagination, because that's what society and, pop culture had kind of painted a picture in their head. That's what a
So like a
gentleman should be.
stereotype?
Yeah, like a stereotype. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What do you think is a gentleman?
Well, yeah, like so first of all, I think there actually has been quite a lot of like stereotypes surrounding like male like recently, right? So you see like
uh
there's like simps, chads. You got everyone's
since
talking about like alpha males and stuff, right? And then you, of course, you have this like,
I hate that. I
yeah,
hate that.
I'll get back to you later. I
Yeah,
mean to
get
ask
back.
you
Yeah,
this, but
and
why
answer.
do you
Yeah,
hate it?
answer.
But yeah,
Answer
yeah.
my. Yeah, answer my
So
question.
I'm not gonna get fired, so I'm gonna answer the question, right? Um, so basically, gentlemen, I think this is like I feel sort of like detached to the term, just because the term I feel like it's kind of
Okay.
old and it hasn't been brought up
Okay.
quite a bit, right? You feel it? Like there hasn't been a
Kind of.
lot of like
Kind of.
yeah, it's kind of like
I mean,
diminished.
I feel like
I would sort of say
the
yeah,
modern a word for gentleman would be like
Yeah.
nice guy. That's it.
Yeah, but then okay, yeah. See, nice guy is like it has like a negative connotation, but I feel like a gentleman is like the
Really? Wait, a nice guy
premium.
has a.
Yeah, like so usually like do you know like the Reddit r/nice guys? Have you been on it?
I guess, yeah. I mean, yeah,
Yeah, but
they'd
like
be like,
so
"Oh, nice
nice
guys
guys is
finish it."
like they sort of act nice, but they don't act nice genuinely. So back to your question, I think
Oh,
that's a really good
okay.
segue. So like I would say that a gentleman is nice just because out of like good character and virtue, but then
So
a
yeah, so
nice guy
altruism.
would, yeah, altruistic, he's like
Yeah,
compassionate, right? But then I would
yeah.
say like a nice guy, he would act nice in favor of something else. So most likely he wants like female attention. So he probably like do something just to get with a girl, and then if she says no and he proceeds to call her a bitch or something like that. So that's like the
Okay.
stereotypical nice guy you see online. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I
like to
mean,
answer your question, basically, yeah,
yeah.
gentleman is like a nice guy, but he doesn't necessarily have like ulterior motives in what he does.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you think so being altruistic is one of them. Okay, do you think being altruistic is the most important character for someone to define you as a gentleman?
Well, first of all, like I said, I kind of feel like distance from the term gentleman. It's like it's barely
Okay.
brought up between like guys as well. Like you don't see people going up to, oh wow, I think you're
So
a
yeah, I
real
mean
gentleman,
that's
right?
why I'm here, dude. That's why I'm here, like
Yeah, I
to
know.
bring it
Um,
back, bring
yeah,
it
bring
back
it
to
back,
life.
reel it back.
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
don't make them like they used to before. I sound like a
They
boomer
don't.
right now,
Yeah,
but yeah, I get what you
they
mean.
don't say that.
Um,
What do you mean, boomer? Don't say that. There's a negative
yeah.
connotation to it.
Yeah, negative connotation. Yeah. So like you see like there are a lot of like terms floating around these days on the internet. You got like boomers, zoomers, nice guys, nice girls, Karens, like all these terms that sort of hook onto a certain identity, right? Including
It's
gentlemen,
so trashy
right?
though. It's so
Yeah. All right.
trashy
You know
though.
what? Tell me why. Like you said, I remember really vividly. You said you hate the word like simp. It's still like an identity
Yeah.
term, but like you hate it. So like tell me why though. Like why
So
would you like yeah.
so people, those who create. Okay, so for those who may not know what simp means,
Uh-huh.
simp basically. I actually pulled that up. I actually had the definition here. I'm not even
Oh,
kidding. So
okay.
simp on Google, it means a silly or foolish person, but it actually means like on internet definition, it actually means someone who will say anything to please someone, particularly a girl, in hopes of in hopes that they will be good in favor with that person. So that
So
basically
sort of
is
like a
like
nice guy,
what
huh?
yeah, so what yeah, exactly what you said, but the the bad part about the word simp is that let's say I actually want to help that person. I actually want to help that girl, whatever
Yeah.
gender, I don't care. I actually want to help that person, but someone who hates. So apparently, a lot of the people who were dubbed the simp, right?
Uh-huh.
They most of the time they're like full of like self hatred because they can't do something, they can't achieve something. That's why they're like jealous of someone that's doing something
Uh,
they want,
right,
right?
right, right.
So
Hmm.
let's say they don't have a girlfriend, and then they saw someone helping. They saw someone helping their girlfriend out. They'd be like, "Oh, you're simp. You're a nice guy. You're faking it, right?" That's so bad though, because you're basically encouraging guys not to be nice to girls just because they want validation from from
Yeah.
within their friend group or whatever, right? So
Hmm.
that's not good. That should not be encouraged. I,
Yeah, I think what you said is like kind of true, but like I feel like a lot of things with the internet these days, they sort of like take it like over the top. So, so like simp, what usually like what people refer to simp right now on the internet, well, according to my knowledge, that is, they tend to do like really extra stuff. So let's say they would like, so like for example, uh, a while ago, like iDubbbz, and then her
yeah.
girlfriend had like an OnlyFans account, and then people are calling
Okay.
him a simp. So it's sort of like it's sort
Okay.
of related with someone just like not really like someone who's just like who would
Okay.
like
Okay.
pay
You
a
know
lot
what?
for the
Since you,
girl or
yeah.
like do extra.
Yeah.
But that
Okay.
I feel
What
like
would you?
I do agree with you where like the internet sort of takes it over. So anyone who's remotely like nice or like just acts like a normal human being with a girl, you just call like sim.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that time in elementary school when guys were
Oh
like, "Oh
yeah.
my
Exactly.
god,
Yeah.
you talk
Oh
to a girl,
yeah.
you're
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
stinky,"
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like
Okay.
those
But
stuff. Yeah.
But what if you're like what if you put yourself in iDubbbz's shoes though? Like what if your girlfriend or your
Hmm.
fiance or your wife has an OnlyFan account? Okay, so again, once again, for those who may not know what an OnlyFan is, an
For the
OnlyFan is
older
just
audiences.
basically yeah, it's basically a website for you to post more explicit picture. So
You know
basically,
what? Just don't even
you can sell
sugarcoat it.
nudes. You
Just
can
like
sell
yeah, you're just
nudes. You can
selling
sell
nudes.
nudes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So OnlyFans is like a site. It's not a porn site. I mean, you have to pay
Is it?
for it. So like
Sorta.
it's like
There are those
it's
on
sort
there
of like
though.
right. It's like with extra steps though. You have to pay for it, a monthly subscription. Okay. So
Yeah.
back to the question. What if what if your girlfriend or your fiance or wife has an OnlyFans and but they're like making banks though. They're making money.
That's like a really dreaded question, you know? Because, like, it's for me to be in that position, it has to mean that I'm like failing quite hard. So that's
I
what
mean,
I
not
think.
necessarily. No, not necessarily. No, no. Like
Like, I mean, like,
she's not
if you
doing
ask
it.
me,
Okay.
yeah, because I think like if I can provide, let's say, all right, I think
Okay.
girlfriend is sort of like a weird context because there isn't really like that much commitment going in, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
On
That's true.
if you're talking about wife, then it's a whole different story. Like, cause you guys are like married, there's more commitment to it. Like, if I know my girlfriend's doing an OnlyFans behind my back, I probably break up because I don't feel
Okay.
comfortable, right? I
What if
would
they're
talk it
upfront
over
with
though.
you though? What if they're
I,
upfront with you?
I mean, I would, to be honest, I would probably like, I would be against it. But
Okay.
would you be for it? Like, would you be like in that? Like,
To be
would you
honest,
say,
if
yeah, sure, go for it?
um to be honest, I don't know. Like I feel like uh
It's hard to say,
damn,
right?
like right, yeah, it's hard to say cuz but like one thing I want to add is that your wife let's say wife because you said girlfriend's
Uh-huh.
not that committed, right? Let's say wife, your wife is not doing it because you're like financially failing. Your wife is like actually into that, right? So it's actually
Well,
what she likes to do.
you see,
And
like,
so
there's like a
would you
yeah.
support her?
I mean, there's sort of like a I don't want to say like a false dichotomy in your question because if I'm like if I don't feel comfortable with my partner doing this, then I probably wouldn't marry her and then
uh
discover, oh wow, so you're into that.
uh
I probably like discover beforehand, right? Because
I mean, yeah, that's true. That's
I mean,
true.
if you discover it halfway through your marriage, then I feel like you guys have some serious communication issues
That's
and like
that's true. That's true.
right. So
That's
like
true.
imagine like you marry this girl and she's really nice, and then suddenly 2 years in she's be like, oh, I'm actually like a guy, but like I had
Uh,
surgery. But then if you're like upfront about it, then probably yes, you're like, oh yeah, I already know. But if she just came to you with
okay.
that information, you'd
So
probably be in shock,
so
right?
okay, so it's not really what about what she does, but more about she not being
Yeah.
honest with you. Okay.
I feel like it's really personal because see, like you said, you can't really like emulate that feeling. I feel like
Yeah,
this
I
kind of
actually can't really
situation is
emulate this.
yeah, it's kind of hard to like completely substitute yourself into the guy's position because there has to be a lot of nuances I think that goes behind what we see on the internet, right? And I think that's also one of the like interesting issues around these like identity related names or like identity tags basically. So when you
Yeah.
see someone being a like quote unquote simp, right,
Okay.
it's usually presented in a way where there isn't much context provided. So you just see the
Yeah.
so-called simp action, but you don't actually
Yeah.
see like the reasoning. And then you know the how the internet is. They just kind of form a mob, and then just one guy starts commenting,
Oh yeah,
and
they
then
have
everyone
to
jumps on the
take
train
things
like,
out of
"Yo, simp."
context.
Yeah,
Yeah, I.
but I feel
That's
like
why.
it's
That's why.
yeah,
It's so unhealthy. Like as I said, putting like creating all these terms to belittle someone that are like being nice or doing something you can't achieve. So
uh
that's
huh,
one thing. And then the second thing is that that kind of like created like a unhealthy environment for men to talk about these kind of stuff. So recently,
yeah.
I took an anthropology course just
Ooh, okay.
last 2 months, right? So we learned about culture, races, and no, not racist. What culture, race,
Race,
and like
yeah, race, yeah.
ethnicity, race, ethnicity, and
Whoa,
like identity, right? And then
yeah,
obviously we talked about how like the like gender inequality, a lot of these stuff that happen, and then it's still an ongoing thing, and how people are trying to overcome it, oppression, blah blah blah. And then I appreciate all these discussion because even though like I'm not a female, I'm not directly affected by the benefits of the change, right? But I'm happy to see them talking about it because it's like
So would you say like
it's
so?
like creating
You
a
think
like
yeah?
letting more people know that it's okay to talk about these stuff,
Hmm.
but right. So
So you
I
feel
mean
like
obviously
these
they're like fighting
identities?
for it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah. So you feel like these identities that are floating around sort of closet them. So like let's say when guys do something nice, so they get immediately tagged with a label. So you feel like these like labeling on like social media or in general is kind of bad for healthy conversations. Is that what you're
Yeah,
trying to
exactly,
say?
exactly. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly what I was trying to say. So let's say you call someone a simp, and they don't
Yeah.
want to be called simp because let's say they're not that mature.
Uh-huh.
And then now the next time they want to talk about their feelings, because I mean everyone wants to talk about their feelings, they just need
Yeah,
a safe
sure.
environment. So they're
Yes,
less
yes.
and less safe environment for them to talk about their feeling,
Yeah,
especially
or in like
for
a
guys,
yeah. Or like in the
especially for
Sims
guys.
case, maybe he wants to like be nice to people, and then so happen that people is a female, and then he gets called a simp. Maybe he just like he becomes an asshole afterwards, right? It's like that could happen. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that could happen. So I
and
really
like
that's
yeah.
why I don't like all these terms because there's like an unforeseen snowball effect that
But
is
would you say
going
like these
on.
terms are like new or like so? I think these terms are like recently popping up because well obviously there's more like slangs going around, right? So you got like stuff like, oh my god, it's lit, like
Yeah.
dab or like things like that.
What?
And
Yeah, slang. Yeah.
but I would say that these terms has, especially like you said, guys, right? I
Yeah.
think these terms date quite back to like where like the infamous masculinity stereotype, right? Because like you said, we always had this perception on men being like really tough. They don't talk
Yeah.
feelings, they never cry. So what about this? What do you think about like the older, like the general stereotype? Do you like not
It's
like it?
complete. It's complete trash. Okay. First of all, okay. You know what? From my perspective,
Yeah, go off, go off.
if I were to compare myself with the so-called traditional male expectations,
Yeah,
okay.
like the
First of
identity,
all,
right?
yeah, the so-called quote unquote identity.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
First thing first, I don't know what it means to be alpha. Being alpha is complete nonsense.
It's sort of
Second
like
of
an
all,
arbitrary term.
right? Second of all,
Yeah.
I have to be sporty. I have to be athletic to be a dude. What? Okay, that's wrong. Second, and then third of all, might as well like just talk about it right now because
Yeah, sure. Go off.
I myself is a really like I wouldn't say emotional, but I'd say sensitive to
Compassionate.
compassionate. Yeah, a nicer
Yeah.
term for it. But
Yeah, I'm trying
like,
to help you out,
so
man. I'm
yeah,
trying to make you look
yeah.
good. Come on, bro.
Okay, but like kind of sensitive towards like emotions and stuff. So that's why I am one thing that I can notice really well from other people on other people is that what they actually what they're actually telling me or what they're actually feeling.
So like the
And then
underlying
yeah, yeah,
information,
yeah, 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 yeah.
the
And then
undertone. Yeah.
according to the traditional male identity list,
No.
that's not on it. But do I identify myself as a male? 100%. And do I
Yeah.
think I'm masculine? 100%. And I don't think. And then you know what? Sorry to like completely say something unrelated, but
Yeah.
there are
We could
more
just
and
edit this
more.
out, right?
So so obviously when there are like two sides of a conversation, there's always the middle ground where like everyone's like
Yeah.
level-headed and
Hmm.
they actually want to make improvement, and they're like the extreme sides, right?
Yeah.
The
I feel like this
extreme
platform is we're trying to do that here because obviously we have different opinions. Not exactly the opposition, but it's more about like discourse, civil discourse and conversation
yeah,
to like put things on the table. And that's what we kind of want to do with this podcast in the beginning as well. Just like
exactly. So
yeah.
like extreme let's say masculinity and femininity, right? So there's like
Yeah.
toxic masculinity, that's a thing.
Yes.
And then there are
Yes.
like extreme feminists who be like, oh like being feminine is the only way to go. So like guys that know like guys that are like feminine or so hot, right? They're not exactly directly telling you that you have to be feminine, right? But they in some way they're trying to tell people that, oh, guys that are feminine are so hot, like if they
So they're
show
trying to
more of
push
their
the narrative.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
cool. Like if a guy value his feminine side, that's like I think that's a
Yeah.
really good thing, right? Because
Of course.
I,
Of
in
course.
my opinion, I think there's like two sides in every person. But the
Yeah.
thing is, it's cool that you value that, but it's also cool that you value your masculinity. It's not like you have to completely
Yeah.
trash that
Definitely.
side. And not a lot of people are talking about to how to properly express masculinity.
Yeah. That's a
And
really good.
right,
Yeah, because like you brought up like the third wave feminism. Basically, this is what like we're currently experiencing. Um, a lot of people express like these kind of attitude to like, oh, they say like, oh, this is all toxic masculinity, even like
yeah.
this is a burn down the patriarchy, and like we live in a
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
misogynistic society, that and that. um
mm-hmm.
I think sometimes, while I wouldn't totally like disagree that there isn't any hint of like toxic masculinity in our
Oh,
society,
they're like
but
yeah.
I'm what I'm trying to like what I usually express or like tell people is that we shouldn't like necessarily burn one thing to the ground just because it has like some bad apples in it. I think we should rather like teach people, like you just said, how to express your masculinity, maybe in like a
Mm-hmm,
better, healthier way that includes
mm-hmm.
like multi-spectrum stuff. So like
And then
guys
yeah,
can
and then
freely talk about feelings. Yeah.
one thing. So I think it's last year. Not is it last year? No, first semester. So it's like in
Yeah. Okay.
October.
Hmm.
So I kind of so one of my friend asked me to, hey, do you want to come to this like so it's basically a club where people talk about healthy masculinity. So I was
Ah.
like, you know what? I don't know what it actually is, but I'll give it a try. So I went with him, and I actually talked about this with some of my friends. Maybe I had a completely wrong feeling, or I totally read the room like completely wrong. But I feel like their idea of healthy masculinity is to mask it,
Eliminated.
is to not
Sorry.
eliminate it. Like
Okay.
they're
Mask it.
talking
So
about
like suppress
masculine.
it.
suppress it. Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
healthy. No, that's not healthy though,
Uh, yeah,
right?
I
So
completely agree.
by agreeing with other side, yeah, I mean you should agree with other side while
Yeah,
expressing
definitely.
your side as well.
So like
You
agree
don't
to
want to
disagree.
suppress. Yeah, not
Sort
really
of.
agree to disagree, but
Yeah,
like
but like
you should still practice what you do, but also
mhm.
agree and understand the other side.
I think what better describes your feeling. I mean, honestly, I completely get what you mean. Is that people tend to put things on like a off on switch. So you either it's complete correct or complete incorrect, rather than I think like especially stuff like masculinity or you know what every other stuff should be put on like a dial, so like from a scale of 1 to 10, so you maybe you can like there's more leeway between like 0 and 10, because nowadays they just seem like okay masculinity is toxic so we just completely shut it off or like try and like
Exactly,
suppress it.
exactly.
But I feel like there's better ways to do it, and then I feel like there isn't much people talking about it, especially around like our age group. So we're both around 20, right? You're 20?
Where I'm 20, I guess.
Yeah, so we're both 20. So yeah, especially around our age group, there isn't much like platform or like even like like anything talking about how you would better express it in like a healthier way, you know. But
And
I feel
yeah,
like there
and
are yeah.
hey, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I feel like the only voices we kind of hear constantly bombarding us, it's like you said, it's sort of like, oh, this is bad, you know, you shouldn't doing this, um, like which I
Yeah,
feel like is sort of sometimes it feels almost discouraging to be identifying as a man, like it sort of feels
yeah.
like you're just almost like always constantly being guilty, like am I doing something wrong, like am I that like a bad influence on society in general.
Yeah, exactly. Like sometimes
Yeah.
it makes me think like, am I doing a bad thing,
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
is the receiving end not good at receiving what I actually intended to?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and then another thing that really infuriate me is that like remember the other day we said how in the older days when you have to protest there are like no
Uh-huh. Yeah,
leaders,
yeah.
but now everyone can be a leader because of internet.
Oh yeah. You
that
got like
reminded me that reminded me of that video, that Jubilee video of
oh
masculinity
Jubilee.
versus
Yep.
masculine. The masculine side was so bad because they
That
think
incel
they
dude from Reddit was insane.
that. Oh my god, they
That
are
kid was
so
like on some stuff.
okay. Having a like a discussion with your friends or even on
Yeah.
podcasts like what we're doing now, it's okay. We're not like educating you, right? You
Yeah,
can
for sure.
completely ignore what we say. But these people that are on Jubilee, or at least that guy who are starting like a movement, right? Masculinity movement or whatever he
Yeah,
called it.
sure. Hmm.
What he said is really wrong, and that made a that's a bad rep for men,
But I feel like a
right?
lot of people would actually agree with him though. Like I feel like
That's not good though. That's not good.
yeah, but the thing is, you're trying to do the same thing, right? I feel like you're trying to shut down. I mean, yes, I agree with you that they sort of pick like this really. I don't want to say he's eccentric, but like really extreme example of like a male rights activist, and I feel like
Yeah,
he doesn't have that much knowledge. All I feel is like pent up teenage anger, you know, like edge lord stuff,
exactly.
like
And then
oh my god,
some
I hate women,
yeah.
like those stuff, right? But I feel
Yeah,
like
oh my
so the
god.
other guy on there was pretty good though. The other guy, he was a PhD, I remember. The
Was
other
he
guy
the
with like a blue shirt.
European guy?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that the
that guy
European
was
guy?
actually
Yeah,
pretty decent. I feel like we need
he's
more people
decent.
like
Yeah,
him.
yeah,
Yeah, so like more
yeah.
level-headed, but like less hatred. But yeah, I get what you mean though. But I think like he said he was like an incel. So incel is another
He
like
wait
online
he
yeah.
self-identified as well.
Yeah, he's an incel. So for those
What?
listeners who aren't internet savvy or familiar with the term, incel basically stands for involuntary celibate. So basically, they are like a group of people who identify themselves as it's basically celibates, but they feel like no matter how much they try, they can't have like relationships, physical relationships with any women. So they sort of just like closet themselves and be like, you know what? Fine. I'm not gonna be involved with women at all. So it's sort of
Yeah,
like that
yeah,
mindset. And I feel like this is also like you said, from one extreme where you completely suppress masculinity to like another extreme where you completely say like, oh yeah, like I'm a man, I don't
yeah,
need
yeah.
women.
And I mean,
Like it's
like
just like,
incel to a
yep,
point is basically because they think they can't do, they won't have any chances with the opposite sex or whatever their
yeah,
sexuality is. They would just say, you know what, screw it, like screw it. I will say
yeah, and just
whatever I
completely
want
shut it
because
out.
it doesn't matter,
Yeah,
right?
they just
So
basically completely shut the like shut it out. So like, oh, just because I can't date, I'm not gonna even date, and I'm gonna condemn anyone else who tries to date, and then I'm gonna like paint this like really bad picture on women in general, and like sort of encourage other men to like, hey, let's stop like interacting with
they
females in general. Like this is kind
they
of
are they are
extreme.
the gatekeepers. They are the
They're the
gatekeepers from,
gatekeepers.
keeping people who actually want to understand men away, because they'd
Yeah,
be
I
like,
feel like
oh,
that's
screw
true.
you, like don't come here. We in our
Yeah,
circle, right? We're superior.
this the boys'
Like, just
lockers
shut
room.
up.
Get out of here.
Just
But I
shut
feel
up.
the same goes for feminism as well, though. Do you have this like feeling about that? Like you
Like,
also have like gatekeeping females that sort of stop
I mean,
us
in every
from, yeah,
community, there ought to be like a gatekeeping community, but
yeah,
it's
for
just
sure, for sure.
how bad it is, right?
So you
Even
think
okay, let's say,
we
okay,
have
you
it
know what?
worse?
Let's say for watches and whiskeys, okay, because that's
Yeah,
what I talk about.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like Rolex,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So
Wait,
people,
hold on. By the way, quick plug. Check out Ryan's podcast on Spotify and YouTube. That's gonna be up
a
weekly. Yeah, for those
a
people who follow the original whiskey and watch reviews, make sure to hit up his podcast. Show him some love.
hey,
Yeah.
what's
All right,
up? What's
continue.
up? Yeah, that's your boy Ryan. Okay,
All right.
so let's say watches and whiskeys. You know how like Rolex is really popular, yeah. Even like the other day when I talk about watches, the first brand that popped into your mind is Rolex.
Yeah. I mean,
And then
this is sort of like a Ferrari. Like
yeah,
it
right, yeah,
just
yeah,
comes
yeah.
into your head. Yeah.
So there obviously are some people that hate when people buy Rolex because they think they're shallow. They think, oh, all you do like Rolex fanboy,
Right. Right. Right.
you don't
So
know
like the
watches,
identity around Rolex,
right?
like the
Yeah, but the
connotations,
thing
right?
is, like these, like obviously these are the gatekeepers, right? They'd be like, oh,
Uh
I
huh.
hate Rolex fanboy. Anyone that loves Rolex, or they don't really love watches. But the thing is, even though Rolex is a really really popular brand, you can't deny that they make good watches.
Yeah.
So loving it doesn't mean you don't know about horology. It just means you appreciate
Yeah.
their craft. So
Hmm.
go like linking back to what we were saying, these gatekeeping communities like sometimes take it too far.
They
Maybe
sort
like
of ruin the community.
yeah, because they saw someone do something and they immediately label them as blah blah blah, whatever. And
Yeah.
then
Would you say there's like a sort of like a elitism within like different communities? Because obviously you have like some people, they'd be like, oh, I've been let's say collecting watches for so years, and then whenever they see someone like trying to get into the community or try something new, they would just bring out their like, oh, I've been doing this for X amount of years, and then just trying to like shut them down. Would you say that elitism also exists in like
there's
communities?
definitely, but I have not met anyone that are like that, to be honest. The only
Oh yeah,
quote unquote bad, like not
bad
well
apples.
mannered dude was one time I went to a boutique and I mean, I'm a student. I was in like UBC hoodie, all right. So I went to a
Yeah, yeah,
boutique
yeah.
like asking for a watch. Hey, can I try it on? He
Uh
didn't
huh.
answer me at all and just walked away.
Oh, oh
He's like the
no,
only bad dude that I've met within the watch community. Everyone
that's
else
kind of
I've
nasty.
encountered, right? Yeah, acquaintances are all really nice guys, but definitely there are people like that be like, oh, I have been collecting watches for 20 years now. Whatever you said, doesn't really matter because look at you. You've been what, 2 months? Right? Obviously, there are so-called elitism, but
Yeah.
I'd say there definitely are gatekeepers in a
In every
in a female
community,
community in
basically.
every community, but I just
Yeah.
feel like the male community are some of the most toxic ones.
Oh, huge words coming out from Ryan here. Yeah, I would say that
Do you not
maybe
agree though?
because we tend to be more protective over our stuff, right? In
Because we
general,
because men.
physical possessions or even our like because we're more territorial. If you catch what I'm
Because okay,
saying,
yeah,
like,
don't you think men has a bigger ego?
well, yeah, definitely. I would
Right? Yeah.
agree.
So
Like,
I
I
mean,
would agree.
obviously, an
Like,
ego.
yeah,
Yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
Go ahead. Go on. Okay. I
Oh,
would
okay.
I would
So
say that like
okay, you go
All
ahead.
right.
You go
Sorry,
ahead. You go ahead.
listeners. Sorry, this is our first time. We might have some like syncing issues, so we do apologize if this sounds awful in your
Yeah, two
ears.
two in sync. Two in sync.
Yeah, but we're just really passionate about where we're talking, and I hope you feel our compassion while
Oh yeah,
listening. And
I hope you
yeah,
feel it. Yeah.
we just have a lot of stuff in our mind. We'll try to like improve a lot, but yeah, but basically back to what I was saying that like a lot of male communities, or even when we're a lot like younger, we tend to be really defensive. So like
Yeah.
bullying friend groups, like, like, oh, you're not in our
Yeah.
circle, get out, that
Oh yeah.
happens a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
more
Facts.
aggressive. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you know what I'm saying, right?
I
Like
oh
the small
definitely
circles and stuff.
because okay, you're so you're from the okay, so back in Hong Kong, so as mentioned before, we went to the same high school,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
the system for that
We're on
school
two
is,
different lanes, basically. Yeah.
I mean, because you were studying in that primary school, yeah, for
You mean like
so
St.
you're
Stephen's?
in SS. Sorry.
You mean St. Stephen's Primary School?
Yeah. So
No,
you
no, no.
were in
I
that.
wasn't. I wasn't from. No, no. I'm not from there.
Oh wait, actually, okay. So
Yeah, I'm not. I'm
maybe,
not.
maybe you can back up what I'm going to say. So
Yeah, yeah.
basically,
Sure,
that
sure.
school before going into grade 7, there's
Yes.
this like group of people that have been like studying together for the past 6 years from grade 1 to grade 6, and all of them are
Right, right,
like
right.
almost like right a guarantee to enter this high school or secondary school, we call it in Hong
Like they're
Kong.
really academic, like excellent kids, right?
Right, yeah. So obviously I'm
Like the
not
smart kids.
from that school. I was from a different school, so the first like
Okay.
year, me like trying to blend into whatever to existing friend groups are really hard. But the thing is, the girls are they have it easier. Like I've seen like girls creating friend groups, from whatever new kids and old kids. They blend in together really well, and I just feel like guys often we have like as you said, really defensive, and we form cliques, like really close friend groups, and we don't allow people enter.
So like, yeah, I think like gatekeeping happens like among guys. So obviously, we're not trying to assume like girls have it better, because obviously we wouldn't know, because we're both guys.
Yeah.
So if one day we so happen to have a female on this podcast, maybe we can bring like more
Oh
opinions
yeah,
from
we
the other
should we
aisle.
should we
Yeah,
should yeah.
definitely. But as for us, so purely speaking from our like, or like at least in this case my personal experience, I feel like gatekeeping happens at a really young age, which is sort of intrinsic in males. So like a bit of my backstory: I originally didn't grow up in Hong Kong. I
Oh.
grew up in mainland, and when I
Oh,
first came in Hong Kong around in elementary school, i
okay.
I didn't speak like the local Cantonese. I had
Oh.
a like accent. And you know
Wait, for
how
real?
in,
Wait, I didn't know
yeah,
that. What the hell? Okay.
I had like this sort of like this weird accent. So basically,
Yeah. Okay.
like sort of like I was immediately identified as, oh, this guy is not local. Like this guy's from some other place, because his
Yeah.
Cantonese is like not
Like
really good.
crooked. Yeah.
Yeah, crooked. Yeah, basically crooked Cantonese. And in
Yeah.
my primary school, I had like quite I went through quite a bit of like gatekeeping among my peers because they would just sort of like distance themselves from me.
Are
And
they
whenever
like
I tried
guys or
to
girls?
guys, because that's an all boys
Guys.
school. I went to
Oh,
like an
okay,
all
okay.
boys school,
Oh,
like those
same,
like
same,
Catholic
same, same,
schools.
same. Yeah,
Catholic
same,
schools,
same.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just all guys, but they would just sort of like box me out, and I felt really, really bad about it. And it's like I felt like just because I wasn't like fluent in one language, I felt like I was completely like boxed off. So this is like my first contact with like the gatekeeping thing I keep saying. But that was like in
Yeah.
elementary school. That's like kids. So like even kids were like sort of like programmed intrinsically to like sort of like eliminate the people, or like
Yeah,
not
yeah.
eliminate, exclude people not from like the same group. And I feel like this is like a continuous issue that carries on over into like teenage years or even into
Oh
adulthood in like
god.
male. Would you
Okay,
say that's
so
like yeah?
obvious, like, okay, so I don't know about Hong Kong, but you know how like call universities in Canada and in the States, they have like fraternities and sororities.
Oh yeah, the whole
They
frat
they
thing.
are
That's insane.
they are the epitome of gatekeeping.
Yeah. Do they like
Exa- I
yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah,
Do
you
they
were
like
saying?
brand themselves and stuff? Cuz like
Oh
I
my.
heard
Okay,
they're
so
pretty
basically,
extreme.
yeah, yeah, and yeah. Okay, so before coming to Canada, all like the only frat image that I know are from 21 Jump Streets, 22 Jump Streets,
Oh yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
right?
Those
Yeah,
frat
those
guys.
movies. So I
Yep.
came here obviously like really excited to see like what this frat thing is all about because like to confess, okay, being completely honest here, I was gonna rush, like I was gonna join a frat because I really want
Oh,
to
really?
experience it. And before,
Wow.
yeah, actually, for yeah, so first year I
Damn.
actually thought that if I don't join a frat, my college experience will not be complete.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's actually my thought. So I went to a few
Yeah, that's
parties, right? Like
reasonable.
really excited, right?
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Yeah, trying to blend in, trying to make friends. Zero chance. Like if
Zero.
they
Oh no.
if they think you're a loser, my like remotely, they are not
Wow.
going to talk to you. And
Wow.
like frat culture is so toxic that even like frat and
Oh,
sorority are
okay.
so toxic that obviously like you have to go through a process like rushing and stuff, and they like actually screen you, and they
Sort of like a Marine
behind
boot
yeah
camp,
behind
right?
but yeah behind closed door they would actually pull up your social media
Damn.
profiles in front of
Okay.
every like brothers and be like, oh, do you think this guy's cool, do you think this guy can do this? Oh, I didn't see him shotgunning a beer fast enough though, like that's a no, like, right? So yeah, so really toxic gatekeeping community. I don't really know
Yep.
about the sorority side, but I've heard a lot of stories about
I heard
fraternities.
it's kind of it's equally as extreme as
I'm
the guys. You know.
I've heard stories too, but I'm not going to assume because this is not something
Yeah,
we do
we're
here on
we're
this
not.
podcast.
Yeah,
We
we don't assume here,
we don't
right?
assume here. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I've heard like a lot of stories about how frats are like obviously like gatekeeping, and then they do all these misogynistic things to
So
girls
it's
because
basically like built into the frat identity. So like you gotta
yeah.
sort of conform to the majority, and then so you sort of give up your personal identity, and then you conform to the majority, which is like everyone's a
Yeah,
frat bro, sort of like that, right?
exactly.
Yeah. Well, so like okay, we talked a lot about like the different gatekeepings and like different stages in like the male from male like childhood to adolescence to like even young adulthood. What would you say like is like something we could do about this gatekeeping thing, like because obviously we did say like suppressing it's not going to be a really good thing to do, like completely foregoing any like remotely masculine thing. But how would you say like we could sort of like deal with this sort of gatekeeping within like male communities or within men in general? Because even if it's two people, like if even if it's like let's say I see a dude I might already be gatekeeping a bit based on what he's wearing or how he's speaking. Like that's sort of like
I mean,
in
okay,
us.
I don't think that's gatekeeping. I think that's just normal
Yeah.
interaction because if you don't know that person,
Okay.
obviously you're going to evaluate them based on their appearance. That's why I said, you know, even being, let's say you're the nicest guy on earth, you're super altruistic. If you're not presentable, people are not going to talk to you because that's just how human, you know, how we work. But
Yeah. True.
I think that to eliminate gatekeeping or eliminate what so-called like toxicity in one community, we have to normalize something that were stereotypically like something not to do. Like let's say in men's culture or so-called being alpha male, we should not like show our emotions or we should not cry or right be so emotional. Like normalize that.
Yeah.
Why is that
Normalized.
why is that a quote unquote girly thing? Since
Mhm.
when? Talk about your feelings. I don't like they're like so see Reckful, the streamer, right? So
Yeah.
this
R.I.P.
there's
That's
right,
really sad.
rest in peace. So, yeah.
Yep.
So Reckful is a really famous streamer on Twitch, you know, an online
A
streaming
streaming
platform.
video game streaming platform.
Yeah, recently he passed away because he like killed himself due to
Committed suicide.
depression. Yeah, he committed suicide
Yeah.
because of depression. But
Mhm.
the thing is that whenever he tried to talk about his feelings or be
Oh yeah.
vulnerable on
Oh
stream,
yeah. You get those comments from guys and be like,
those
why are you even
the
doing
whole,
this?
yeah,
Like,
exactly, the whole chat room was like making fun of him and to a point where he actually
yeah,
cried
like
one time on stream and then
pussy,
and
all that kind of negative comments. Like,
that's
oh
so
my
wrong
god,
though.
yeah,
That's like
yeah, I get what
normalize
you
it.
mean.
I yeah.
Like this part is where I think men suffer the most. Like, it's not even about whether you should be alpha or not. It's just about that people alone, they have a lot of stuff they can't face. Like, I feel like I can like correlate with people going through depression because I had like a really bad depressive episode myself,
Oh,
and what really helped me push through it was my friends. And
okay, that's
of
great. That's
course my
great.
family and the people who support me, but I feel like without like people I can actually sit down and talk with openly, I would
Yeah,
probably do like worse. No, I probably wouldn't like say like I would have killed myself maybe, but that would be too
yeah,
extreme. But I'm just stressing the importance of guys in general to just
yeah,
sometimes it's gonna help you if you talk with people, and then if you find like
yeah,
a
exactly.
safe environment where guys like support each other, you build each other up instead of like tearing each other down whenever you see a brother struggling, right? I feel like
Right, yeah,
this is something we should be pushing a lot, because I feel
yeah.
like when I see the older generation of men, like I feel their like repressed sadness. It almost feels sad for me to like
Oh, yeah,
listen to their
really?
life stories. No, it's not like I'm pitying them. It's just I feel bad.
Okay,
Like they don't
because
actually. Yeah,
because of
maybe
the
they're like
stereotype they're living in.
stereotypes or like even the society, because you had wars back then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You had
yeah.
like really tough, like my dad had a really tough, so you sort of have to close yourself in order to protect yourself. But I feel like as we progress, it's all about progressiveness, right? As we
Hmm.
progress, I feel like we ought to bring some change within like the new whole male identity, sort of, to more
Hmm.
like fit the modern narrative. So like,
Yeah,
yes,
like
that sort of like tough alpha male exterior might have worked before, where you're like fighting wars, your like economy was trash, or like for many, you're from a Chinese family, right? It's like, oh, I
yeah.
had to eat, like I had to eat trees, all that stuff.
I mean, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, like maybe it worked for them, but I feel like the newer generation in general needs like a new approach, because we can't stay the
Yeah,
same,
yeah,
right?
exactly,
Like
exactly.
here, I think Gentleman's Pursuit, what we're all about, it's just like we want
Improving
to.
ourselves in all kinds of
Yes,
way.
Yes, and I feel like as because honestly, we are the next generation of guys that's gonna be like growing up into like or coming into the society, and I feel like
Hmm.
guys at our age, we aren't like ready in many ways, and I feel like we should be
Yeah,
supporting each other more, right?
yeah,
And then instead of like gatekeeping our communities, we should be more open about it, like accept
yeah,
people just because,
yeah,
just based on
exactly.
we're just human. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. We all have the same like compositions in our body, that stuff. But yeah, I feel like
But I mean, yeah, but I mean,
yeah,
obviously, after all, there are like a huge improvement. Comparing nowadays to before, there are huge
yeah,
improvement
definitely,
in all
definitely,
kinds of community
yes,
within the society we're living in right now. So I'm not trying
yeah,
to discredit it. Yeah, well, we're
we're
not
more
trying to
inclusive.
discredit the progress we've made. We're more like talking about the like specific issues that are still persisting within communities
Yeah,
that we are both in. Obviously, the male community, or
in
right,
general, yeah.
yeah, the masculinity
We could like
topic.
always do better. That's what we're trying to push. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly,
we did
exactly.
some improvements, but there's always more room. There's always more things we can do. Like especially like after like seeing like Rekfo's unfortunate
Yeah,
pass on Twitch, and like the comments he received are one some of the like most like disgusting thing I've seen on the internet. Like I just feel like
yeah,
these stuff are really really sad that it's still happening, and then how it could actually like push someone to the edge. Although I'm not saying like it's completely 100% because of the comments, but I doubt like the comments like had zero weight to the whole situation at all. I felt like they probably did their own fair share of like damage to his like already pretty shattered like mental health
yeah. So,
state.
yeah, and then yeah, and then all these like right recent allegations and accusations towards sexual harassment within the
Oh
streaming
yeah,
community, right? Which is like it's bad. It's really bad
yeah,
that it happened, but it's
yeah.
good in a way that they're brave enough to talk about it now, which is something to be like not celebrated, but it's like we're going towards like the right direction where everyone is brave enough to voice out their um
They're
like
basically
their
their
traumas.
opinions,
Yeah,
or
their
like yeah,
traumas.
traumatic, yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah. I do
as I
agree,
said,
because like
yeah, it's like
mhm,
before when you talk about it, a lot of people be like, "Oh, you're just making things up. You're trying to get attention." Right
yeah,
now, it has improved, but we can do better. Obviously,
definitely we can all do better. Not just
we
like
can all do better.
obviously we're both guys, so we technically politically correct. We could only speak for ourselves, but I feel like this is just such a general thing to say that we all can do better in
Yeah,
supporting each of our communities, even if it's like within your family or just your friends, you know. It doesn't have to be as grand as like a whole like a gender or like political party or whatever. It could just be within your like daily lives, you know.
yeah,
it's always um
exactly.
it's always nice to be helpful and more welcoming and more accepting to other people, because you never know what the other person has to go through. And
Yeah,
just because they probably wear a smile on their face, or just because you can't see it, doesn't give you like the power to like just completely disregard that person. And I
yeah.
feel
Too
like
close
we
to
could
home.
all
Too
do.
close to home. Too close to home.
Yeah, too close, damn.
Too close. A little too close. A little too close.
Still too close. All right.
But
So
yeah.
sorry, this podcast has to like end on like a sort of like sad mood,
Well,
but I
no,
feel
no,
like
it's not sad. It's
I
not
feel
sad.
like
It's
there's
not sad.
hope.
It's not
I
sad.
feel like there's
It's
hope in our
happy.
message.
There's hope. Yeah, there's hope.
I
There's
feel
hope.
like I feel like I want to get the hope out there. There's hope,
Yeah, there's
right?
hope. There's hope.
There's hope, right?
Yeah,
After the rain comes the rainbow, right? I don't
exactly.
know where I got
Exactly.
that quote from, but
Keep
that's how I'm gonna end this podcast. So
yeah,
guys,
keep your heads up.
if anyone who's listening, keep your heads up, don't be afraid to speak out, seek help, please. And I
Don't
hope you guys
and
have a
one important thing,
yep.
one important
Yes,
thing is that don't be afraid to make changes.
definitely.
Yeah, don't, don't hold yourself back just because of
Carve it down in a
whatever.
stone.
Yeah, don't be
Yeah.
affected by what these nonsense people are saying to you because they don't mean anything. If you really want to make a change, we really encourage you to make a change. We ourselves, by striking this conversation or trying to, bits by bits, make a change here. And this is all about the gentleman pursuits after all. So yeah,
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, that's about it. We hope you enjoyed this episode. This is our trial episode and the first episode as well for our new series. We haven't named it yet because
yeah, we haven't named it yet.
yeah,
Actually,
because
if you for those who are listening right now, if you have any like suggestions for
yeah,
what to
make sure
name
to
this
hit us up.
podcast, feel free to
Yeah,
DM Gentleman Pursuits on Twitter,
or
Instagram,
if you're watching
Facebook.
this on YouTube, drop a comment and tell us what
Yeah,
would you like to name this podcast. And yeah, and if you guys have like any interesting topics or like any things you would like to hear our like
input.
input, yeah, we're not
Yeah,
authority figures. We're
yeah,
still figuring
yeah,
things out. But
exactly.
if you
Yeah,
like what we well, if you vibe with us,
yeah.
just drop a comment on the YouTube or go to Instagram at Gentleman's Pursuit and tell us what you would like to hear. And is there anything else, Ryan?
No, that's it. That's it. Yeah, that's it for me.
All right. So,
Yep. Thank you,
guys,
guys.
all right, bye.
Bye.